Welcome to a Create.Control tutorial video. In this video, we'll cover the unique parameters and controls of the Soundscape View. We'll start with the object parameters. First, select an object either from the Soundscape View or from the list. Then, from the sidebar, click on the Parameters panel to expose all of the parameters that you can adjust for this object. The first is Level. The level fader controls the input gain for whichever input this object is routed to on the connected Soundscape processor. In most cases, you won't need to use this as you'll likely have a mixing desk available. However, if you'd like to adjust the input trim, here's an easy way to do so. Next is the on-space send. The on-space send fader controls the amount of level for this object which is sent into the emulated room acoustics provided by InSpace, if installed on the processor. You can think of this as reverb on an aux. This is visualized by the half circle above the object. Please keep in mind that if OnSpace is not installed on your processor, then this fader will have no audible effect. Next is the spread control. The spread control dictates the horizontal level distribution from the object's position. This is visually represented by the half circle below the object. The default value of 50% is the recommended setting for most applications. If you want to have pinpoint precision and realism, decrease this value. If you want more distribution across the speakers, mimicking a traditional PA, increase this value. Check out our video on spread and spread factor for more information. Next is the delay mode, which is represented by the icon next to the object name. The delay mode controls how this sound object is delayed to all speakers in the room. The default setting of full is recommended for most applications. Tight is recommended for multi-channel playback such as stereo, left, center, right, 5.1, etc. Off is recommended for fast-moving animations. Check out our video on delay mode for more information. Next is the position. While in most cases, clicking and dragging will suffice, if you know the precise location of a sound object in relation to the point of origin, which in this project is front and center of the stage, you can manually enter those values into the position field, such as 0.5 meter and 0 meters. Lastly, we have a mute button. This simply mutes the input which this object is routed to on the connected Soundscape processor. Additionally, you can mute objects from the Sound Objects list. Not only can we control parameters for single objects, we can also adjust the parameters for multiple selected objects or groups. To do so, simply click the Groups tab inside our Soundscape Objects panel, select the group that you'd like to adjust, and choose whether you would like the change mode to be relative or absolute. Relative change mode means that if we make an adjustment to any of the parameters, those adjustments will be made relatively to the current value of each of the objects. So for example, if we know that our drum kit is actually further upstage than what we see here, we can simply click and drag to adjust the entire drum kit further up or down stage, and all of the objects stay in relative position with one another. However, if our change mode is absolute, as you can see, I'm not able to click and drag in this field because each of these objects has a different X value. If we set the X value to -4 meters, for example, we will see that all of the objects will snap to -4 meters on the X axis. The functions work exactly the same when selecting multiple objects from the sound object list. To select multiple objects, hold the Command or Control keys and click each of the objects that you would like to select. If you want to select a range of objects, simply click one object, hold Shift, and click a second object, and all objects in between will be selected. These two functions can be used in conjunction with one another to ensure you can select all the objects you need for any situation. Once we have our selected objects, we see again in the Parameters panel that a change mode option has been provided and set to relative by default. Just as with groups, I can click and drag the objects from the viewport or any of the values to adjust them relative to the others. One caveat worth mentioning is that because delay mode is a choice between 3 options and not a numerical value, it can only be adjusted absolutely. As we see here, our video objects are set to type mode, our drum objects are set to off mode, and our sound effect object is set to full mode, yet the parameters panel displays the delay mode set to full. If we change to type mode, for example, we see that all the drums and sound effects are now on type mode. The Soundscape view comes with a few additional helper functions for working with your sound objects. These are located in the toolbar at the bottom of the sound objects list. First is the visual solo. The visual solo will highlight any selected objects or groups in the viewport. This has no audible effect. It's simply here to help you with locating and organizing your project. Next is Solo in Place. Solo in Place will mute any objects or groups which are not currently selected. Next is Target Mode. Target Mode will zoom in and center any selected objects or groups. This is very useful when trying to locate particular objects or groups. Each of these 3 modes can be used in conjunction with one another, and their respective buttons must be clicked to deactivate the mode. And last is Delete. Delete simply deletes the currently selected objects or group. However, it will do so without a warning dialog, so be careful. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.